this time on Custom Work we're doing paint on the Meat Wagon and it's... I already know. It looks awesome! Okay, so this time on Custom Works, we are going to see the Meat Wagon actually painted. I can't like withhold it and I can't con you. I've already done it and it does look awesome. It's not like I'm going to tease it. Will it look good? Won't it? I'm telling you now, it's great. But before we look at that, we had to make some lights for those two bullets on the front. And we had to make the lenses using some like resin and a mould. So let's have a look at that and then we'll get to the awesomeness of the Meat Wagon paint job. Right, so I'm looking at them bullets on the front of the Meat Wagon. We want to make the tip of them, we want to make it clear. So I'm going to cast 2 lumps of clear in the bottom of this, which is the mould that made them bullets on the front of the Meat Wagon. So first up, I've got to put the release agent in. So I'm going to use this PVOH mould release agent, which is really good. It dries like polythene, like a bag or something, like that. Anyway, I'm going to put some in here, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pour a tiny bit in. Then I'm going to really disperse it, and what I absolutely don't want is it pooling at the bottom, because that will not give me a pointed tip. That will give me like a blunt tip, because this is pooled at the bottom and taken the bullet out. That's that. I'm going to leave it overnight to dry, and then I'm just going to pour some of the clear resin in. That will float up to the top, and that will give me my bit for the front of those bullets. Okay then, so here is the here's the mould that we put the mould release in earlier, and now all I'm going to do here is just pour that in. I'm going to go to there, and that's pretty much it. You'll see loads of bubbles in it at first, but they seem to sort of disperse as it's dry. I know there's that like vacuum pump thing you can have, but I haven't got one of them, so this is all you're getting. So we've got this mould, which last night I put this clear stuff in, and I think it's pretty much set now. In fact, it feels rock hard, although it is very hot. In fact, the hottest day there's ever been, apparently, so the news says. But what I'm going to do now is take this out, and then we can sand it up, polish it, make it fit on the Meat Wagon. And there we have it, another light lens for on the front of the Meat Wagon, which has got a little bit of a tint, a greeny tint. But that's no problem, just like it's old. Could it be purest green? Alright, let's get it fitted on the Meat Wagon. So then, looking at this, we've got to make this fit onto here. So I need to make that as the end of that. So at some point we're going to have to cut this and mount that on it. But before that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up a little bit, just so I know exactly what the dimensions of this are going to be. And also I'm going to make a backing plate for it, so we can actually attach it onto here, trim this bullet back to the exact diameter of the back plate, and then make this fit up to that, and it'll all come good. Sounds quite confusing, but believe me, it'll all be very, very like simple when it's done. Let's make a back plate for this. So the first thing I'm going to do with this is polish it up. And what I'm going to start with is some 320 paper. Then I'm going to work down through 500 grit and then to 1500 grit. And then I'll polish it up with some compound. So here we go. Let's do some polishing. And there we go. Super clear. Probably just needs a quick get some of the excess stuff off. And the compound I've polished it up there with, it's just this like, boom, 3M stuff, just on the normal mop that you do paint work with, and da-da, all nice and shiny. There is a casting mark in it, but you know, I think that runs concurrent with like old glassware on cars. So now I'm going to make a back plate for it. So to make this backing plate, first off what I'm going to do, using a piece of dye bond, can an episode go by without it, I'm going to draw around here. And then I'm going to cut it out. So the thing I want to do here is put 2 holes in this and then make it so it screws to the back of here. I'm going to drill some holes in it. That together and that like that, and what I'm going to do now on the back here, I'm going to draw around so I've got a nice amount of space of screws, but enough space for light to shine through there. So I'll cut that out, and then we'll have somewhere to mount it, somewhere for the light to come through, screws so we can take it off. It's all coming good! Okay then, so boom, there it is. We've got our backing plate, we've got our clear bit, and that is ready with the bit chopped off that bullet. We can fit that on, and boom, we have a light. It. We've got this on here. I've added a bit of fiberglass behind there, just that sort of, you know, mix up P40 stuff. I've dropped some of that around there, and it is mitre fixed to there. What I'll do, I'll paint this in with everything else, and then that lens fits on, and then Hot Rod Building legend Lee Cox will wire this in. We'll have lights in here, and with the sign on the front, just there. All this will light up with the side lights, hopefully. I think it's going to look really cool, and I really like how that resin came out with that slightly yellowiness to it, so they really look old. They really do look the part. And you know, if you're going to make a pair of indicators for your car, you can put dyes in that stuff and tint it to any colour. You could really have a great set of lights that no one else has got, and really give your car like a really unique look. Everyone would be like, wow, where are their lights from? I made them myself. Really is greatest feeling ever. Okay then, so last week you saw that we painted the roof of the Meat Wagon black, and most of this week what I've been doing is polishing that roof and just machine polishing it half to death. Really, the thing was like glass by the time I'd finished. Very ripply glass as well. Definitely not a vehicle that should ever have been like in gloss black, but we weren't painting it gloss black. We're doing the aluminium effect, and I've done the aluminium effect. Now, maybe I should have filmed this maybe not. It would have been quite difficult to film because of the camera with the paint and stuff, but I've done it. So let's take a look. So here it is, all nice and shiny. So what I did, I dusted over this with the silver to give it this sort of mirrored effect. And you really can, look, you can see my face in the thing. And it's come out really good. And it really does look like aluminium now. The whole thing feels very different now that this is silver. I've not unmasked underneath yet to see, you know, like what the whole thing's gonna look like, because there's still a lot of work to do on this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna black in down all of these edges. So all of these joins, all of these rivets, I'm gonna darken all of this down and make it look as old as, you know, the below part. And don't forget, all of this is all fiberglass, all plastic. There's no, well, other than the rivets and the screws that hold it together, there is no aluminium and there is no metal in the roof. But now what I've got to do, I've got to knock this down. Yes, I want some of it to be this shiny, but most of it I want to look a lot more weathered than it is. So I'm going to use some techniques of just dry brushing and weathering all that. And this really is more, this is where hot rodding and prop making really do sort of overlap. So that's what I'm aiming for. Dirty this down, get some really good sort of patina to it, rather than it just being painted just like, you know, just silver at the minute. Just look at the back of this. Literally all that junk glued together now looks a lot like it's all been made in aluminium and made by some like crazy old coach builder. But it's all too shiny. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the black paint and start dulling this down. So then on this side, I've started some of it and I've got this sort of dry brushing that I've been doing, and this part here over the texture that we did. Now it's silver, I've managed to put the black over that and knock it back a bit. There's more to do on all of this, but that's what I'm going for at first. And what I'm just doing this with is just normal black sort of acrylic paint. At the minute I'm using this Zinza exterior satin all coat. And like I say, it's an acrylic base paint. Now, if I was to go on here with anything, you know, out of an aerosol can or anything like that, it would really like etch in, because I only clear coated this yesterday. So this clear coat will still sort of mechanically accept other paint on top of it, but it will be locked in forever. And that's not what I want. I want to be able to put some paint on, take some paint off, that sort of thing. And this just gives me that ability to do that. And this is the sort of look I'm going for. Like I say, this is only the first stage. There'll be other colours that go over this, and maybe some rust effect and things like that. But all of that coming together to make a realistic looking piece of like aged patinaed metal. Doing this blacking, every low bit has got to be black, and every high bit, there's got to be silver, like it's worn through. So this sort of ribbed effect on the front, what I've got to do is paint in between each of these, and all I'm going to do it with is brush exterior satin black. So I'm going to paint that on in these cracks, and then it will look a lot better. So let's get to it, let's get it done. Okay, and you can see here that now I've painted between the gaps, you get this lot more sort of realistic sort of look. And also here, that little bit of dirt really does bring all this kind of thing to life. Right, so what I did with the roof, once I'd done all the blacking and I'd made sure I'd got it in every crack around all the rivets, you know, just to really show that off. I went over it and I sanded a lot of that off with a Scotch-Brite pad, just rubbed it down just to feather the edges, so none of that black looked like it had just been sort of lumped on. And then once I was happy with that, I went over the whole roof with some 2K clear, but I tinted that 2K clear with a little bit of black gloss, so it gave me like a sort of like a black candy apple effect over the chrome. And that seems to give me a lot more sort of reflectiveness. I don't know, it emphasised all the dark bits, a little bit like varnishing a piece of wood and really bringing the grain out. And then after that, I unmasked the bottom of the car and then added the matte 2K to that. And I did the same thing of tinting the 2K with some gloss black again. And what I've done, I ran around it because it's got like a candy finish. The more coats, the darker it gets. So in all the nooks and crannies, I went around and painted in there and then sort of faded it out. And then I gave everything a couple of coats with the tinting. Again, a lot like putting like a tinted wood stain on and seeing the grain come out. That's what's brought like the colours and the rust and all of that sort of pale greenness to life. Okay then, so enough talk. Let's take a look at the Meat Wagon, and I am just so pleased with how it's come out. All the way through, you know, I did a sketch of this car at the beginning, and I was hoping this is what it's going to come out like, and really, it has come out like from my mind's eye into reality. Let's take a look. So, here it is. Right, and so let's go from the front to the back. First up, like this side, this matte sort of clear, which probably got a little bit more shine than it will have in a few days. This was only painted like late last night. Already it's looking good, and the, you know, the patina's really come through, but then some of that sort of, I don't know, all the edges, everything's been softened by that tinted clear. At the front, the grille. This grille was done in the brown chrome, you know, we did it black and then we went over with the silver. And then what I did here, just flicking with the paintbrush, I flicked some clear with some iron filings mixed in with that in, left it for a few hours, flattened it down, then covered it in the acid. And we've got these like rust spots and stuff in this, and it really does look like a old rusty dull front. But don't forget, every one of these teeth has been made from scratch. Every inch of this bumper's made from scratch. In fact, everything you see, the only thing that I haven't made here is the headlights and the headlight rings. But other than that, this is all one off. Okay, and so round the side of the Meat Wagon, now we've got this roof that, I'm standing here, I made it. I know it's all a nonsense and it's all just fiberglass. But even to me, it feels like this is like, I don't know, been made by someone else in aluminium and then it's been sort of polished up a bit. I don't know, but it feels real when I'm standing next to it, and I know none of it's actually real. But all of this has come out great. And then lower down here, our baking tray wing mirrors have come out great. They look really good. And the body as well. I think we can best see sort of here where I sprayed in the cracks and I sprayed sort of either side of every curve to try and sort of emphasize it a bit more. A lot in the way, like, I'm not saying it's anything like this because the man's a genius, but the Gene Winfield fadeaway paint jobs of the 60s. I know he's done some since then, but I tried to sort of channel a bit of Gene Winfield, so it faded from the dark to the light, back to the dark, and accentuated like the shape of the van. So inside this door, this isn't quite finished yet. We need to black out a few sort of strips here, but you can see we've got the nice clean silver of the inside against the more rat rod look of the outside. And I'm just super pleased with how all of that came out. And then walking round, you can still make out the white painted sort of spear down the side of it. You know, a lot of this patina you've got to think, if anyone's been watching that long, When I first did the patina paint on this van, and it was just in its base coat and the rust paint, we left it outside on the ramp for 2 months in the elements through the winter. And that really did seem to bring on the patina in a more natural way, rather than it just being all contrived and from the paintbrush sort of thing. But it has come out very good. But now, let's have a look at the back of the van, because this is where there's just so much going on. Immediately start to get to the back, you know, the van tapers down and the roof's got, you know, we've got these panels, but then we've got full sort of 3D curve here that curves into the roof and around, and is literally like a mirror just there. See my hand on there? But it's dirtied as well, you know, so it still looks old. And starting from this part, what I did here, I never quite knew where the silver was going to end on the back of this bumper, but I've added this trim up to the fender skirt and then just chrome this part of the rear fender. And of course then that comes into this sweeping bumper around. And as well, if you've been watching the show for quite a while, you will remember when we made this rear bumper, and it is almost sort of solid fiberglass, so it can actually drag in the road. But from where it came to where it has ended up, it really has worked very well. And of course this has got some rust around the bottom, so it looks like it's been caught and dragged a few times, and it's all looking good. But the true drama, the true sort of like theatrical wow of this van is definitely the back. So then, the back of the van, all in its shiny, metalized sort of look. And you know, think back and remember, this is just some cloaking from the plastic window place. It's the top of a garden light heater. You know, just bits I found laying around. What I've done with the lights on the back is I tinted them in a black tint, but then because we've gone over them with the matte clear, it's given them a really sort of like a dead sort of look to them. And even the fog light has got a slight tint of black to it, so it just looks like everything's come from the same box. There's nothing there to sort of jar with the universe that this sort of exists in. So from the other side of the van, as we come round, well, what do you know, we've got another rear light there. Got lots of sort of patina on these parts, but as you can see, you can still see my reflection in there. And even though I'm here, I know you're there and this is all through a camera, but it literally feels like it's made of metal. It just seems like it's real. Like I say, I know better than anyone. None of it is. I understand that while it's here, it is quite hard to sort of get a real good look at it. And over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing the interior, finishing that stainless steel lining in the back and getting everything looking really good. And then we will have a whole special episode with it driving on the road, doing its thing. And you know, we might even put the heat to the meat, maybe even cook a burger. Who knows where this channel might go. I just can't wait for it to be on the road now. I know there's still quite a way to go. I know we've got a few hurdles with things like certification for the gas appliance. Like, you know, never really built a custom truck with a deep fat fryer in the back, although why I haven't before, I don't know, because what a great feature on any car, a deep fat fryer. Who doesn't want chips when they're driving along? So we've also got the front of this, where it's going to have its neon sign. I've made this surround that's all nice and smooth. I'm just waiting for this black paint to fully harden up before we can chrome it. But that will fit on here and really finish the front off. And I've got to say, what you're seeing now is something I've never seen. I've never actually had anyone else hold it up so I can see it. So I'm hoping it looks pretty cool. I'm presuming it does. But that will go on there. And this is going to have all the electronics in, the neon sign, the glass. I think that's really just going to finish this bit off because, of course, it looks a bit rough at the minute. And if we look closely in here, you can see the terrible Mark I roof, which never actually featured. Well, it did for 1 second and then it was hidden. And let's never speak of that again. Okay then, so that is it for this week. In this episode, we have definitely moved forward. And over the past couple of weeks, actually, the Meat Wagon has moved forward. And a lot of the time with a project, you just think, oh God, this is never going to be finished. I just seem to do the same job over and over and nothing ever happens, like some sort of hot rod Groundhog Day. But believe me, those days do go and things do start to move on. But there is like a 3/4 way thing in a project where you think, why did I ever start this? But we are moving forward, and once that Meat Wagon's out of the way, the 60s truck will be in like just all guns blazing to get that done as well, and that's also going to be amazing. But that is it for this week. Our Etsy store unbelievably actually works again, so if you want, you could buy a t-shirt that's got my name on it. Anyway, buy one, they're dead good. And that's it. So between now and next week, there'll be 7 days. In that time, I will mess about and do as many entertaining things with cars as I can. And next week, I'll see you and we can point and laugh at all the mistakes I've made. Thank you very much and good night.